Public News Service Daily Newscast for Monday, December the 17th, 2018. I'm Mike Clifford. Can the GOP muster the votes to avoid a government shutdown? Also on our Monday rundown, groups laud Zinke's departure, but worry about who's next, plus a call for review of Veterans Administration dog research. Topping our news, just days before a deadline to avert a partial government shutdown, President Trump, Democratic leaders, and the Republican-controlled Congress are at a stalemate over the president's treasured border wall. That, according to the New York Times. They report Republican leaders are also confronting a more mundane and awkward problem. Their vanquished and retiring members are sick and tired of Washington and don't want to show up anymore to vote. The Times is calling it the revenge of the lame ducks. Many lawmakers relegated to cubicles as incoming members take their offices, having been skipping votes in the weeks since House Republicans were swept from their power in the midterm elections. Republican leaders are unsure whether they will ever return. Conservation groups welcomed the departure of Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke, saying it could take years to reverse the damage to America's public lands during his time in office. Mark Richardson has our report.
President Donald Trump announced Saturday that the former Navy SEAL and Montana congressman will leave his post by the end of the year, amid ethics charges involving business deals, policy decisions, and travel arrangements. Despite high hopes that as a Westerner, Zinke would be sensitive to public lands protections, Aaron Weiss with the Center for Western Priorities thinks he'll be remembered as the most harmful Interior Secretary for public lands in the nation's history.
Secretary Zinke focused on slashing Bears Ears by 3/4 and Grand Staircase Escalante by half. And that's going to be the legacy that he leaves behind, is this attempt not to stand up and protect public lands, but to open them up to oil and gas drilling.
White House sources said he was forced out of the job. Zinke is the fourth Trump cabinet member to resign under a cloud of suspicion. The most serious of more than a dozen accusations involves a land deal with the chairman of oil services mega firm Halliburton in Zinke's hometown of Whitefish, Montana, now under investigation by the Justice Department.
The Denver-based Center for Western Priorities is a nonprofit group that advocates for balanced conservation and energy practices in the West. Congress has a chance to provide support to workers and communities in Kentucky suffering from the impacts of the coal mining industry.
The Black Lung Disability Trust Fund helps coal miners with black lung disease and their families cover medical costs. A tax on coal mining, which finances the fund, is slated to be cut in half by the end of the year. Kenny Fleming of Eastern Kentucky, who had to retire early when he developed black lung, says lawmakers are pushing to extend the tax for just 1 year.
The trust fund is a lifesaver. It's helped so many people in so many ways. But now it's in jeopardy, and we're trying to put a Band-Aid on it.
There are also calls in Congress to move on the Reclaim Act. Eric Dixon with the Appalachian Citizens Law Center explains that measure calls for a $1 billion commitment to mine reclamation.
It would put people to work actually cleaning up coal mine sites that have never been cleaned up and that currently cause pollution and negative public health impacts.
Dixon and Fleming are among those hoping Congress approves at least a 1-year extension of the trust fund and passes the Reclaim Act before adjourning for the year. Mary Sherman reporting.
And a new report paints a clearer picture of just who lacks health coverage in the state of Texas. Eric Galanis has more.
Unless Texas lawmakers make significant changes to health policies, the number of Texans without health insurance is projected to rise, according to a new report released by the Episcopal Health Foundation. Brian Sasser with the foundation says the report paints a clearer picture of just who lacks health coverage in the Lone Star State. He notes many work full-time in stores, wait tables, build homes, or care for children, but still cannot afford insurance.
I think what may surprise some folks is that working Texans make up the majority of the uninsured in Texas. In fact, 2/3 of uninsured Texans live in working families.
More than half of Texans without coverage live in families that include at least one full-time worker, according to the report. More than 4 in 10 live in families where at least one adult works at a company with more than 50 employees. A majority of Texans say they want the state to expand Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act, which could insure more than 1 million residents. Lawmakers have argued the move could put taxpayers on the hook for Medicaid costs if the ACA implodes.
The report confirms that Texas has the highest number of uninsured people in the nation, currently nearly 5 million residents. And finally, Tramel Gomes tells us that research on dogs by the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs is officially under review to determine whether the dogs are being treated humanely and if the program is necessary.
The National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine is conducting the review after the animal rights group White Coat Waste Project launched a massive media campaign in 2017. It used information from public records requests to spotlight what it called the mistreatment of puppies in painful heart attack studies. The campaign caught the attention of a bipartisan group of lawmakers who introduced the Puppers Act in Congress to outlaw unkind and painful dog experiments in VA facilities. Justin Goodman with the White Coat Waste Project says there is already overwhelming evidence that the research isn't needed.
The facts are clear. The VA admits that it hasn't had a breakthrough from its dog testing since the 1960s. A government program that's failed to produce for half a century does not deserve taxpayer support, particularly when it involves torturing dogs to death.
The VA commissioned the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine to review its entire canine research program. I'm Mike Clifford. Thanks for starting your week newsing and cruising with Public News Service. We are member and listener supported, and we're online at publicnewsservice.org.
Do you need dental insurance? Then call Physicians Mutual Insurance Company for details. Not just a discount plan, real coverage for 350 procedures. Call 1-855-402-7556. Again, that's 1-855-402-7556. Offer is not available in Minnesota, Montana, New Hampshire, New Mexico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and Washington.
Remember back a few years ago when you wanted to sell something? Where could you advertise that product? You had so many media to choose from. There were signboards and newspapers and radio and television. Which one should you pick? Well, thanks to Heartland Newsfeed, those days are over. Let us help you plan a print ad, an online ad, or a radio ad that will target your customer. And the price is based on the type of advertising you want to do, the size of the print ad, or the length of the radio spot. Or you can choose all three. And our prices are considerably more affordable than the competition. And best of all, we guarantee satisfaction. If you don't like your ad, we'll do it over for you. We want you to be satisfied with what we do, so you'll let us plan your advertising over and over. So, call Heartland Newsfeed today at 1-866-285-4117. That's 1-866-285-4117. It's a new type of advertising for a brand new century.
On the internet, there are tons of special networking websites, but one stands apart. This one saves lives. It's matchingdonors.com. Matchingdonors.com links organ donors with people in need of kidney and other transplants. Did you know in the U.S., 19 people die each day waiting for an organ transplant? If you've ever considered becoming a living organ donor, or if you're someone in need of an organ transplant, please visit matchingdonors.com.
USA Radio News with Chris Barnes.
Former FBI Director James Comey remains behind closed doors, being questioned again about his handling of the Hillary Clinton email investigation and the early stages of the Russia probe. Julia Manchester is a reporter for The Hill. She says this is Republicans' last chance to question Comey in this way.
Their narrative, while they've been controlling the House during the Trump administration, is to try to investigate alleged bias at the Justice Department and the FBI. So there has been this back and forth. So they're trying to fit in the last time they can with Comey while they're in power.
She was speaking on CBS News. North Korea warning the U.S. that increased sanctions could spark Pyongyang to build more nuclear weapons. The response coming after Washington announced sanctions on 3 North Korean officials for reported human rights abuses. And you're listening to USA Radio News.
Exciting things happened over the last 24 hours.
President Trump speaking at the congressional ball on Saturday night, referring to the federal judge's ruling on Friday that the Obamacare Act is in its present form unconstitutional. Republican Senator Susan Collins saying she believes that ruling is going to be overturned on appeal. But the Indiana Attorney General Curtis Hill says
the individual mandate is the linchpin, so it covers the entire aspect of the Affordable Care Act. So if you remove that tax, then the individual mandate fails, and right. Congress itself said that the individual mandate was what made Obamacare work in the first place.
He was speaking on Fox and Friends. Storms causing trouble in the east and west today. On the East Coast, they're still rescuing people and trying to dry out after several days of record rainfall, especially in the Baltimore, Washington, D.C. area. Meanwhile, in Northern California, waves have been reaching heights as tall as 5-story buildings. This is USA Radio News. 2 branches of the biggest order of Catholic priests are expected to release names of priests accused of sexually abusing minors before today is over. The Midwest and Maryland branches of the Jesuits to release their lists of abusive priests dating back more than 60 years. One of those priests expected to be Donald J. O'Shaughnessy, accused of repeatedly assaulting a boy at a private Catholic school in suburban Chicago for years. Sears is paying more than $25 million in bonuses to its top executives and high-ranking employees just months after filing for bankruptcy. A federal bankruptcy courts approved the company's request to pay the $25.3 million in bonuses. Sears says it will give high-level employees a financial incentive to stay with the retailer as it works to rebuild itself. And it comes as Sears is reporting losses of nearly $2 billion through the first 9 months of this year, Sears having filed for bankruptcy protection back in October. And country music legend Charlie Daniels Charities donating $50,000 to help military veterans fighting cancer. The Journey Home Project donating the money to Nashville's Vanderbilt Ingram Cancer Center. Remember, you can find us online anytime at usaradio.com. And for USA Radio News, I'm Chris Barnes.
Radio. It's nothing new. It's been here all along. With free entertainment, news, sports, music, and information. It's not just part of life. It's a part of who we are. You know which station is going to tell you the score of the game, which one is going to give you a laugh in the morning, which one will give you something to sing along with. You know where to turn when the weather gets rough. When something big happens, good or bad, you know where to go. Because radio has been here all along. Radio is part of your community, woven into the fabric of what makes home, home. And now, radio has evolved to move with you with the Next Radio app in your FM-enabled phone. Just plug in your headphones to start experiencing radio in a whole new way while using way less battery and data than streaming apps. Check out the live guide to see and interact with live radio stations. Easily find your favorites, like the one you're listening to right now. And as always, it's totally free. Download the Next Radio app today. Next Radio, live and local, wherever you go.
Heartland Newsfeed is looking for an advertising sales manager to sell advertising for the website. For more information, contact Jake Leonard at admin@heartlandnewsfeed.com.
From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Darryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Monday, December 17th, 2018. Silver is trading at $14.61 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,240 per ounce. Zen is trading at $5, and the average price of Bitcoin is $3,441. Antiwar.com reports that Saudi Arabia issued a statement Monday morning condemning the U.S. Senate for a pair of resolutions calling them out for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi and blaming the Saudi Crown Prince. They called the Senate resolutions interference based on untrue allegations. The Thursday resolutions by the Senate included a call to end U.S. involvement in the Saudi-led war in Yemen, as well as the blaming of them for the Khashoggi murder. Saudi officials say they previously asserted that the murder of Saudi citizen Jamal Khashoggi is a deplorable time. Khashoggi was murdered in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul by a Saudi kill team. Saudi officials are complaining that the Senate noting this is a blatant interference in the kingdom's internal affairs, undermining the kingdom's regional and international role. The Saudis so far aren't doing anything but complaining, though they want to avoid any ramifications on the ties between the two countries that could have significant negative impacts on this important strategy relationship. Are you an advocate for free market money? Do you promote Bitcoin as an alternative in a fiat-centric world? Then you need Spendabit in your arsenal, the search engine for things you can buy with Bitcoin. Spendabit aggregates millions of products from thousands of Bitcoin-enabled merchants. Keep your money in the free economy. Visit spendabit.co today. Bitcoin merchants, ask about our merchant suite to reach even more customers. Spendabit.co. Reuters reports election officials across Florida say they expect former felons to flock to their offices to register to vote next month when a newly passed ballot initiative launches one of the largest enfranchisement efforts in modern U.S. history. But partisan politics and logistical questions are clouding the January 8th rollout of a state constitutional amendment that could restore voting rights to more than 1 million ex-felons in Florida. Democrats and voting rights advocates cried foul this week when Governor-elect Ron DeSantis, a Republican and critic of the measure known as Amendment 4, said the Republican-controlled state legislature must first pass a law to implement the changes. DeSantis said, "I don't see any way around that. Regardless of whether you want it, you know, all to be implemented tomorrow, or whether you are trying to kind of frustrate it." Florida Democratic Party Chairwoman Terry Rizzo said in a statement calling DeSantis' move an act of voter suppression by Republicans who want to pick and choose who should have the right to vote. And State Senator Dennis Bexley, the Republican chairman of the Ethics and Elections Committee, agreed the measure largely could take effect without new laws. Democrats have celebrated the measure's passage as a civil rights victory, as well as a chance to expand the electorate in their favor in battleground Florida, the largest of the states that swing between parties in presidential elections. Florida has barred ex-felons from voting for 150 years. African Americans who favor the Democratic Party have been disproportionately affected by felon voter disenfranchisement. The measure, approved by more than 64% of Florida voters in November, states that felons' voting rights shall be restored upon completion of all terms of the sentence, with the exceptions for those convicted of murder or sexual offenses. Members of a bipartisan coalition that wrote the ballot initiative and campaigned for its passage are adamant that its language was designed to take effect without any further laws. Zencash has changed their name to Horizon to better represent their transition from a cryptocurrency to a pioneering platform that protects consumer data. They're working towards the day when anyone will be able to build privacy-based applications on the Horizon platform. The unique spelling of Horizon is a nod to their heritage and recognizes that they remain committed to the vision that their project was built upon. Their coin and ticker symbol remain ZEN. Learn more at horizon.global and join the Horizon community. HORIZEN.global. Antiwar.com reports at least 12 people have been killed and 25 wounded in and around the vital Yemeni aid port of Hodeidah as pro-Saudi forces clash with the Shiite Houthi movement and Saudi warplanes strike the area. All of this is raising concern after a successful week of peace talks in Sweden, which ended in a ceasefire deal, and growing concerns that the skirmishes might mean the ceasefire will not take hold. The UN and officials on both sides are downplaying that, however, saying that the official ceasefire deal has been put off a few days and will be implemented on Tuesday at midnight. That's the hope, at least. Violent clashes in Hodeidah have displaced thousands and are threatening the food supply for millions of Yemenis. Continued fighting in the lead up to the new deadline might get out of control and the ceasefire might never be implemented at all. This has been FPP Radio News. Online at fppradio.com.
This season, Raising Cane's welcomes Frosty the Snowman.
Let's make a party out of it. Let's have a parade.
Drive through or come in for hot and fresh 24-hour marinated chicken fingers with cane sauce. Then pick up a gift card, Cane 3 calendar, and Frosty the Plush Puppy. Net puppy and calendar proceeds benefit local pet organizations.
That's a great idea.
Happy holidays from Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. One love. Own Frosty the Snowman on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital. This season, Raising Cane's welcomes Frosty the Snowman.
Let's make a party out of it. Let's have a parade.
Drive through or come in for hot and fresh 24-hour marinated chicken fingers with cane sauce. Then pick up a gift card, Cane 3 calendar, and Frosty the Plush Puppy. Net puppy and calendar proceeds benefit local pet organizations.
That's a great idea.
Happy holidays from Raising Cane's Chicken Fingers. One love. Own Frosty the Snowman on Blu-ray, DVD, and digital.
Do you or a loved one have a chronic condition such as diabetes, a heart condition, or asthma? Do you or a loved one have a severe allergy to a certain food, drug, or insect? If you answered yes to any of these questions, you are a candidate for an electronic medical alert watch, the alternative to the traditional medical ID bracelet. An electronic medical alert watch visibly communicates a person's health conditions, drug, food, and other allergies, and other critical information to help make a diagnosis and save a life. Take control of your health. Protect yourself or your loved ones and order an electronic medical alert watch today. Visit www.epill.com. That's epill.com. Affordable, free shipping, and a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember, www.epill.com. That's EPILL.com. ePill.
Hey, it's Steve Harvey here for the Illinois Broadcasters Association, and in a recent survey, the Illinois Emergency Management Agency was asked to name the top 5 items that every Illinois family needs to have in their home's emergency disaster kit. Check out these answers. Water, can't live without it. Number 2, non-perishable food. Well, after all, a man gotta eat, right? Number 3, weather radio, and make sure you got fresh batteries too. Number 4, flashlight. Even more reason to have fresh batteries on hand. Number 5, first aid kit. Look, there's no reason to feud over what items to put in your family's emergency disaster kit. Get the answers and more at ready.illinois.gov. That's ready.illinois.gov.
Sponsored by the Illinois Emergency Management Agency, aired in cooperation with the Illinois Broadcasters Association and this station.
From CBC News, it's The World This Hour. I'm Joe Cummings. She is under mounting pressure to call a second Brexit referendum. But British Prime Minister Theresa May is telling the House of Commons today that is not in the cards.
472 current members of this House voted for the referendum in June 2015. And the British people responded by instructing us to leave the European Union. Now, we must honour our duty to finish the job.
May says a second referendum on Brexit would damage the integrity of the country's democracy. However, former Prime Minister Tony Blair is among those who say a new vote is the next logical step. The 2 Canadians detained in China have now both met with Canadian consular officials. And Global Affairs is saying they will be providing assistance to the men and their families on an ongoing basis. Michael Spavor and Michael Koffrig were arrested in China last week, days after a Chinese telecom executive was arrested in Vancouver. Canada's ambassador to China was able to speak to Koffrig on Friday, but was only granted access to Spavor yesterday. Looking to offer Canadian air travelers some peace of mind, the Trudeau government this hour is unveiling its Passenger Bill of Rights. In Ottawa, Salima Shivji has the details.
The Transport Minister's office says the goal with this new Bill of Rights is to make sure airlines respect passengers. After all those stories we've heard about travelers struggling with an airline over lost luggage, cancelled or postponed flights. The Bill of Rights will include compensation for passengers when the airline is to blame for the delay. Overbooking, for example, that's the airline's fault. Your flight not leaving because of a snowstorm is not, and so you wouldn't be entitled to compensation in that case. The amount of money you'll receive as compensation will depend on how long you're delayed on the tarmac. Another new rule, parents will be allowed to sit next to their children without paying a fee, and the rules will be adapted for smaller airlines. This is also the first draft version of the Passenger Bill of Rights. Canadians will be able to comment to make it known what they like in this and what they don't like. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Ottawa.
The truck driver in April's deadly Humboldt Broncos bus crash makes another court appearance this week in Saskatchewan. Jaskarat Singh Sidhu is charged with 16 counts of dangerous driving causing death and 13 counts of dangerous driving causing bodily harm. He has yet to enter a plea. Ontario Premier Doug Ford is recalling the provincial legislature this week to introduce back-to-work legislation. It's being tabled to keep the province's power workers from walking off the job. At Queen's Park, here's Megan Fitzpatrick.
On Friday, the union representing some 6,000 power workers gave notice of its intention to take job action. That came after members rejected the latest contract offer from Ontario Power Generation. And so what happened on Friday was it triggered a 21-day period where preparations can be made to close down 2 major nuclear power plants in Ontario, as well as dozens of hydroelectric power stations. Preparations need to be made to do that. You can't just flip a switch and shut them down overnight. The Ford government said it won't sit by and let that happen, and so it intends to pass back to work legislation, and that's why the MPPs will be back here this afternoon. It could take several days to pass this legislation. The official opposition, the NDP, might try and delay it, but the MPPs, yes, having to interrupt their Christmas holidays, they will be making their way back to Toronto today.
That's the CBC's Megan Fitzpatrick. The Canadian Real Estate Association is reporting home sales were down again last month. They dipped by more than 2% in November, making it the third month in a row sales were down across the country. And that cooling off continues in two of Canada's hottest markets, Toronto and Vancouver. The association is predicting 2018 will come to a close with home sales at their lowest level in 5 years. And that is the world this hour. Remember, you can listen to us live on your mobile device using the CBC Radio app. For CBC News, I'm Joe Cummings.
Today we decided to walk to school. The light counted. 15, 14,
41, 31, 13. We
took a left on Carroll Street. Danny's smart, but he gets distracted.
I
realized he forgot his homework. I hope he doesn't have another bad day at school.
When you can see learning and attention issues from their side, you can be on their side. That's why there's Understood.org, a free resource for the parents of the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues. Go from misunderstanding to Understood.org. Brought to you by Understood and the Ad Council.
They were outnumbered, out-equipped. They had no chance of winning, but they had one huge advantage: General George Washington.
The fate of unborn millions will now depend, under God, on the courage and conduct of this army. We have to resolve to conquer or die.
Just as the leadership of one man helped form a nation, today leadership can transform the world. Leadership is in you. Now pass it on from passiton.com.
This is Betty White. I know you don't need one more thing to worry about, but listen, high blood pressure can cause kidney damage, blindness, heart attack, stroke, and you can have high blood pressure even if you feel all right. 1 in 7 adults has it, but it's easy to get your blood pressure checked, and you can treat it if it is too high. So don't worry about it, don't ignore it, just see your doctor and check it out.
For your free booklet, visit the Will Rogers Institute at wrinstitute.org and find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Your NBC Sports Radio update starts now.
Not dead yet. I'm Jeff Biggs, and with their biggest upset win since 1995, the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles kept their playoff hopes alive by beating the Rams on Sunday Night Football on NBC 30-23. As for the upset, after Carson Wentz was ruled out with a back injury, the Eagles were 13.5-point underdogs with another gutsy response for Super Bowl MVP Nick Foles after a 3-month break.
It's really emotional. I mean, anytime you hate for your teammate to get hurt, I feel really bad for Carson. I mean, we're tight in that QB room. I don't care what you've done in the past or what I've done in the past. It doesn't matter when you step on that field. It's a huge win for us.
Meanwhile, for the Rams, last night was not only their first home loss of the season, it's the first time they've dropped 2 in a row under Sean McVay, and also the first time they've lost to the same team twice.
We got to be able to figure this out and figure it out fast, because these last couple weeks we're doing things that are totally uncharacteristic of what good football teams do, what we've done. The only thing we know how to do is go back to work, look at ourselves. Everybody's got a hand in this, and we got to get it figured out fast.
The Rams are still the number 2 seed in the NFC, 1 game ahead of the Bears, and at the moment, a half game behind Drew Brees and the Saints, who will play tonight at Carolina on Monday Night Football.
They're a great defense that has great players. They fly around. They play with a ton of energy and emotion.
In the NBA tonight, the Knicks are back home to host the Suns, with owner James Dolan telling ESPN that he would consider selling the Knicks if he received a legit offer. Want in on a secret? There's still time to get at least 20% off at HolidayInnExpress.com during their annual sale. That's right, 20% off. So head to HolidayInnExpress.com and book now. Terms apply. I'm Jeff Biggs. This is NBC Sports Radio.